That perfect plunge cut looks easy until your router chatters, the bit burns, and your depth stop drifts mid-pass. Today, we're fixing that by counting down the 7 best plunge routers and router kits that actually feel controlled in real wood. And keep watching, because the top picks aren't just more expensive, they're the ones that make routing feel calm, repeatable, and accurate. 7. Makita RT0701C. The Makita is one of those routers that feels instantly familiar the moment you grab it, because the body is slim, the balance is good, and it's genuinely easy to control for light to medium work. The compact form makes it feel more like an extension of your hand than a bulky tool, and for rounding edges, chamfers, trimming laminate, and quick jig work, it's a pleasant experience. Makita's compact router platform is popular for a reason, and it shows in how manageable it feels over long sessions. Where it starts to show limitations is when you treat it like a true plunge router, rather than a compact router that can plunge when needed. The plunge capacity on the kit's plunge base is limited compared to full-size plunge routers, so on deeper mortises, you'll find yourself stepping down more often and working a little slower. The included plunge base does work, and it's handy to have, but it doesn't give that heavy-duty, planted feeling you get from bigger routers. In real use, it shines most when you're using smaller bits and doing detail work, hinge mortises, shallow dados, template routing on smaller parts, and edge profiles where visibility matters. The base design helps you see what you're doing and keep things steady, and the fine depth adjustment system is genuinely useful when you're sneaking up on a fit. The trade-off is that it's primarily a 1/4-inch shank compact router setup, which naturally limits bit selection for heavier profiling and big panel raising style tasks. 6. SKIL RT132200. The SKIL is the router kit that surprised me the most for the price, because it gives you that full-size router feel without the premium sticker shock. It's the kind of kit that can get a beginner into serious routing, dados, mortises, edge profiling, pattern work, without immediately needing upgrades. The plunge base option makes it far more versatile than a fixed base only setup, and for general shop use, it covers a lot of ground. In use, it feels strong enough to drive common bits confidently, and the basic controls are straightforward. When I ran it on cabinet-grade plywood and hardwood edging, it held its own, especially when I kept to smart passes and didn't try to hog off too much at once. For someone building shelves, cabinetry, or doing weekend furniture projects, it can absolutely do the job. But this is where the budget kit reality shows up. Dust collection is a mixed bag, and on plunge routing especially, it can be less effective than you'd hope. That matters more than people think, because plunge routing throws chips right where you don't want them, into the cut line, into the base, and sometimes into your view. Even reviewers who like the kit point out that plunge-based dust collection isn't as strong as it could be. I also found the finer feel, those tiny adjustments that make joinery routing relaxing, doesn't feel as refined as the higher tier routers. You can still get accurate results, but it takes more double checking and a little more patience to land perfectly on depth the first time. Number 5. Bosch 167EV-SPK. The Bosch is where the list starts feeling truly serious because it's built around that classic 2.25 HP 12-amp class router motor and a well-known combo setup. The big advantage is versatility. You get both plunge and fixed bases, so you can go handheld for mortises and dados, then move into a table setup for edge profiles and repeatable runs. That flexibility is exactly why this model stays popular year after year. In my hands, the plunge action feels smoother and more confidence-inspiring than the budget kits, and the router feels like it wants to track straight when you're using a guide. Bosch's variable speed range is broad enough that you can slow it down for larger bits and speed it up for smaller cutters, which helps reduce burning and chatter when you match speed to the task. The listed no-load speed range is 8,000 to 25,000 RPM, which covers most shop routing needs. What I really liked during joinery work is how controllable it feels when you're sneaking up on a final fit. The microfine depth adjustment gives you that dial-it-in experience that makes dados and rabbets feel repeatable instead of stressful. It's the difference between close enough, sanded, and that clicked into place perfectly. It also has constant response electronics designed to maintain speed under load, and in practice that shows up as fewer bogged-down moments when you hit grain changes or slightly tougher material. 4. DEWALT DW618PKB. The DEWALT is one of those kits that feels worksite tough, but still precise enough for fine woodworking. You get both fixed and plunge bases, and the motor is in that same strong 2¼ Hp, 12-amp class that can handle hardwood routing without feeling fragile. If you do a mix of edge profiles, dado work, and plunge mortises, it hits a really practical middle ground. One thing that stood out in use is how comfortable and balanced it feels, especially when you're moving along an edge with a larger bit. DEWALT calls out rubber overmolded handles and a low center of gravity design. And that's not just marketing. Those details actually reduce the tippy feeling you get with some routers when you're working on narrower stock. Depth setting is where this kit earns trust. The microfine depth adjustment ring is designed for precise adjustments in 1/64-inch increments, which is exactly what you want when you're fitting joinery that can't tolerate sloppy depth. For grooves and dados in plywood, being able to micro-adjust quickly helps you dial in for perfect shelf fit without overthinking it. It also offers electronic variable speed with feedback control to keep speed constant under load, plus soft start, which helps prevent that violent twist at startup that can ruin your grip and nick your workpiece. In real cuts, it feels steady, less surge, more controlled ramp up, and that means cleaner starts, especially for plunge work. Number 3. DEWALT DCW620B. The DEWALT is a big deal for one reason. It's positioned as a dedicated cordless plunge router with serious output, built around a 20-volt Max XR brushless platform. That changes how you work because you stop planning cuts around cord management and you start routing where it's most comfortable, on assembly tables, on installed trim, or in the middle of a job site without hunting for power. DEWALT describes it as a 2¼ peak horsepower class cordless plunge router. In use, the plunge action and overall control are what make it feel modern. You get a variable speed dial with constant speed under load listed at 11,000 to 23,000 RPM no load, which helps it stay consistent when you're pushing through hardwood or doing longer mortises. It also includes features like a 3-position adjustable turret stop for faster depth changes when you're stepping down into deeper cuts. The standout safety control feature is DEWALT's anti-rotation system that senses excessive rotational motion and can shut the tool down with an LED indicator when it's engaged. That's one of those things you may never trigger in normal work, but when a bit catches unexpectedly, having a system designed to reduce runaway behavior can be a real confidence boost. I found it especially useful for on-site hinge mortising, template routing, and any task where it's annoying to fight a cord while trying to keep a straight line. Number 2. Triton TRA001. The Triton is a router table lover's dream, and it earns number 2 because it feels like it was designed with serious, repeatable precision in mind. It's a dual-mode precision plunge router, and the big story is how it supports both handheld plunge work and table-mounted workflows without feeling like a compromise. The documentation highlights its dual-mode approach and micro-adjustment capability. When mounted in a table, this router starts to feel like a semi-stationary machine rather than just a handheld tool flipped upside down. Triton includes features aimed at above-table convenience, including bit changes through the base with an automatic spindle lock system and a removable plunge spring to make table adjustments easier. Those details matter if you do lots of profiles, raised edges, or repeated cuts where workflow speed is everything. In handheld use, it's powerful and stable, and it has a soft start and variable speed control for matching the cutter to the material. The spec range called out is 8,000 to 21,000 RPM, which is practical for both big and small cutters when you're routing hardwood, plywood, or MDF. It also has a 3-stage turret system for preset depths, which makes stepped routing far more efficient. What I liked most is the feeling of mechanical certainty. You set depth, lock it, and it stays put. The micro-winder depth adjustment is designed for continuous fine-tuning through the plunge range, and that kind of control is what makes precision joinery routing feel repeatable day after day. 1. Makita RP2301FC. The Makita takes the top spot because it blends real power with refined plunge control in a way that feels professional the moment you start cutting. Makita positions it as a 3 to 1/4 Hz plunge router with variable speed, and it's built around a 15-amp motor designed for demanding routing applications. If you regularly work hardwood, use larger bits, or do deep plunge cuts, this router feels like it has reserve power instead of running on the edge of its limits. In use, the plunge action is smooth and the controls feel purpose-built for accuracy. The variable speed range is listed at 9,000 to 22,000 RPM, and Makita also notes electronic speed control to maintain constant speed under load. That combination translates into cleaner cuts, fewer burn marks when you set the speed correctly, and less drama when you hit denser grain. This router also has the little quality of life features that matter when you're doing careful work. Makita highlights quick-release plunge depth adjustment with microcontrol, 3 preset depth stops, and twin LED lights to illuminate the work area. When you're routing a mortise line or following a template, being able to clearly see the bit and layout marks is not a luxury. It directly improves accuracy. For real projects, it excels at heavy joinery work like deep mortises, large dados, and clean template routing. And it also feels stable enough for big edge profiles where a lighter router can start to feel twitchy. Final thought. That's all for today, folks.